Chapter 9. So in Chapter 9, we're looking how do we reduce the duration of our schedule if it's needed. So we're going to talk about the rationale for reducing project schedules, options for accelerating it, project cost duration graphs, constructing one, the practical considerations, the what if cost, the not time, and is the issue. So the rationale for reducing project duration, we often look to CRASH, which is a term that has emerged in project management lexicon for shortening the duration of an activity or project beyond what is normally can be done. So we're not just simply kind of realigning how things are or taking slack out. And why do we reduce the duration of a project? Time to market pressures, unforeseen delays, incentive contracts, so there's going to maybe be a bonus if we do it early, imposed deadlines and contract commitments, excessive overhead costs that we're trying to reduce, and pressure to reassign resources to other projects. So now we have these resources, but the next project coming is pushing us to get them there. They need to use our equipment or people. So how are we going to finish things faster? Options for accelerating project completion. What do you do if resources are not constrained? We can add more resources. We can outsource work projects and have consultants come in or have outside parties do some work for us. We can schedule overtime, establish a core project team whose sole focus is working on this stuff. Do it twice, fast and correctly. But what about if resources are constrained, if these things are issues? So you're going to try and improve the project team efficiency. You're going to work on fast tracking things. You're going to use your critical chain method to make sure everything is staying in line. You're going to try and maybe reduce project scope. Are there things that we don't actually need to happen that we had planned out? Maybe they were nice to have, but now we're going to take them off the table. And maybe we're going to compromise the quality to get it out the door. Because we want to make sure we're making our timing and having the higher quality level, having the reviews or the people doing it that would bring it to that level just doesn't meet our needs for the project. All right, so here we have our project cost duration graph. So there's your total cost and the optimum cost point. You have direct costs and indirect costs and the low cost point. Explanation of project costs. So what are our indirect costs? They're costs that can't be associated with any particular work package. Examples, overhead costs, and they're costs that vary directly with time, so you're going to have more of them if the project is longer. And then we have our direct costs that are assigned directly to that work package and activity. So your labor, your materials, equipment, and subcontractors, and they represent kind of like the normal costs of that activity. Constructing a project cost duration graph. The project cost duration graph is used to compare additional cost alternatives and benefits. 3 major steps that we look at: find the total direct cost for the selected project, find the total indirect, and then sum the direct and the indirect for the selected durations. So determining the activities to be shortened, which activities can be. We're going to look for critical activities that can be shortened with the smallest increase in cost per unit of time. So if we can do it quicker and it's not a huge extra cost, we look for those areas to kind of bring in. What are the assumptions that we're making? The cost-time relationship is linear. Normal time assumes low cost, efficient methods to complete the activity. Crash time represents a limit, the greatest time reduction possible under realistic conditions. So remember, we're trying to be realistic here. We're not going to do things that are out of control. There's always going to be limitations of the framework of what we can do. We're not going to give up safety or anything like that. We're just going to do what's within the limitations to have it happen. The slope of the line represents the cost per unit of time, and all accelerations must occur within the normal and crash times. So here's what we're looking at in a normal point: activity cost and duration. So it's taking us 10 units of time and it's costing us $400. If we crash it, now it's costing us $800, but it's only 5 units of time. So it's $80 per unit of time. Is that worth it to us for what the project's going to benefit? Cost duration trade-off example. So here you go. In a normal time, so this activity would take us time units of 3 and cost 50. to get it to time units of 2, it's costing us 70. Is that something we're willing to pay and to do in order to make the most progress of our project? That one seems a little bit more reasonable maybe than dropping 2 units and it having cost double that we have in the one below. So it just really depends on the efficiency of what we're able to do. Cost duration trade-off example. So you can see here they're looking at activities that they can trade off and how much it would cost. So activities that were changed and the amount of the amount of cost associated with that for each. But is it worth it to them in terms of how much time they're able to save? And in this case, they're saying project duration is going to 22 days instead of 25 days, and it's costing a total of $775. And that's where their kind of sweet spot is, that they're okay with doing it. So here's our optimum cost point at the $775. Practical considerations to be taken in using the project cost duration graph we just talked about. The crash times, does it make sense? The linearity assumption that things are linear, that there's not different variation in how much it would cost to do things. Choice of activities to crash can be revisited, and time reduction decisions and sensitivity. So what if cost, not time, is the issue? What if we don't have the money to keep going with the project? So commonly used options for cutting costs are reducing the project scope. Nice to haves are kind of coming out the window, and we're just going to do what we need to get the viable product. Have the owner take on more responsibility. So maybe the project manager or the key stakeholders are going to do some work themselves. Outsource project activities or even the entire project. Maybe somebody else can do it for less cost than what we can, and because they're more specialized in the area, and it just makes sense to have them do it. And then brainstorm cost savings options. I don't know if I talked with you guys about this before, but I think I did in my other group. In working in an operational facility and working in a factory, it's not just brainstorming with the people at the top, it's brainstorming with those people that are doing the laborious activities every day, because oftentimes they know the best ways that they can, cut costs, or the things that are not necessary within the activities that could be taken out and help you get towards where you need to be target-wise. So what key terms did we talk about today? We talked about that crash, the crash point of where we're taking it, crashing the time, direct costs versus indirect costs, and fast tracking. And then last but not least, that whole project duration graph. And that is it.